Welcome back, baseball fans. Another elimination video. We are eliminating the California Angels today. They had another mediocre season, finishing 17-22. Last couple years, it's been the same thing. I think they were 17-21 a year ago. Early 70s, usually not much offense, good pitching. Here they hit 265, which is an improvement over previous years, but just not a lot of production. They were 5 games under 500, yet they were only 3 runs in the difference. 165 for, 168 against, which would suggest they played in some bad luck, I suppose. Their lone all-star this year was Sandy Alomar, a switch-hitting second baseman known mostly for bunting and hit and running and a ton of plate appearances, and he hit 298 with 10 stolen bases, batting second all year. I think it's because he was a second baseman, and the second basemen in the American League weren't particularly great. Cesar Tovar led the club in hits with 55, 333. Isn't available to play infield anymore. He's now exclusively an outfielder. Richie Scheinblum and Bobby Valentine have 300 hitting cards. Neither hit 300. Jay Johnstone had a little power surge in one of the series you saw earlier. He hit like 3 home runs in one series, only 6 all year. 23 RBI to lead the club. Again, Mickey Rivers is in a platoon role. Don Baylor's in a platoon role. Jim Spencer led the club in homers, 7 home runs and 19 RBI, just a 280 on base. But it's the pitching that's supposed to carry the club, and Nolan Ryan really came on strong at the very end, too little too late. He had 2 shutouts against Milwaukee in a series that they split 6 games with, and that's why the Angels got eliminated. They had to beat the Brewers 4 games to 2. They did not. They split, so their season ended. 5 games under 500. We give Ryan credit for salvaging a 5-3 season, 87 innings, 3 complete games, 2 of those at the end there, and a 2.36 ERA with a 1.37 WHIP. So that's pretty much a great year for Ryan, all things considered, when you consider all the walks he puts on his card. 43 walks, 93 strikeouts is actually outstanding, to be beyond 2-1. Bill Singer is normally their best pitcher in previous years. He had an okay year. He struggled. The big problem was Frank Tanana's rookie card, or the first year he could pitch on 3 days rest card. Really struggled for some reason. I don't know why. It's a great card, but he went 1-7, 4.69 ERA, and a 1.52 WHIP. That's just not going to get it done. Dave LaRoche also struggled in the bullpen with a 4.50 ERA. Hassler was also a starter 7. The Angels added 2 lefty starter 7s from the year of 74, Tanana and Hassler. So they're going to have those cards for 4 years. Hassler's 1-2 with a 3.72 ERA, and those guys just need to pitch better, and they can. They get better support, better defense, probably. But with that, let's take a look at your California Angels. We're going to take a look at the pull out the 71 players, and they're not. And 8 of those will, of course, exit, leaving us with 12 players from 72, 3, and 4. Okay, and we'll count these. Make sure we have our 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And these are the dozen players that'll start the season for the Angels next year. And they're going heavy with pitching, which is probably a good thing. It's a 6-6 split, so they're only going to add 2 more pitchers to this team. They have to build an offense with just half a roster here. Unfortunately, 2 of those 6 hitters are catchers, and not very good ones. They have Glenn Borgman and Art Cousineyer platooning as right-handed catchers who are 4 with 0-arm E16 defense. This is arguably the worst catching platoon in the league. And so you'd like to trade yourself out of this, or just cut one of these guys and make room for a established catcher if you can. You got Baylor. He could play the outfield and first base and designated hitter. He was a nice steal from the Orioles. He would play for the Orioles, the A's, and then the Angels, winning the MVP in '79. But in my league, they traded for him much earlier than that, and that's a good thing. That should help the Angels, having Baylor very early in his career. These are the 2 back-to-back. It's really interesting. These Shine Bloom and Valentine, the 1 template, the 2 template, were your top 2 hitters for the Angels in 73 with 328 and 302 averages. Very gaudy batting averages, which should help the Angels, a team that really desperately needs hitting. And they bring it. They just don't have any defense. And you want a left-handed shortstop? Well, you got one. You got Rudy Meoli. Congratulations, Angels. You have a left-handed shortstop. His name's Rudy Meoli. Okay. Now the pitching. This should be the highlight here. And they're going to bring back their whole staff. Yep, the whole starting rotation's coming back. We got Ryan. Ryan on the rotation as a starter 8. Then you got Tanana as a starter 7 to go righty-lefty. Great year for Tanana in 74, 3.11 ERA. Then I'd go Singer back to a righty as a starter 8. Big year for him, also in 73. 316 innings and 120 games. And then you have Andy Hassler, the youngest, and a guy who has kind of an up-and-down career, but this is one of his best cards. He also has a good 1980 card as a reliever, but this is probably his best card. They have it for 4 years, and he will be their number 4 starter. You could bump him up to a number 3 starter. So, starting pitching, A. They get an A for that, which is what they need. Now, the bullpen, they have the back end. Cecil Upshaw is a reasonable setup guy, nothing too flashy there. But LaRoche is the closer, and he's very good. He was actually a Twin, but he had 2 different stints with the Angels in the early 70s and the early 80s. LaRoche with a 2.84 ERA will close games out. So what I would do is, you already have all 3 lefties. All you need is 2 right-handed setup guys in the bullpen. That's easy to do. I would dedicate the first 6 picks in the draft to hitting and the last 2 picks to pitching. That's how imbalanced this Angel group is. So let's take a look and see what the Angels do with those 1971 cards. All right, let's take a look at the Angel players, the 8 players that the Angels are going to have to replace. We have to go to the senior Sandy Alomar, not the son who played for catcher, but Sandy Alomar, the infielder. He would play for the Angels, then he goes to the Yankees at a certain point. So he was an all-star in 70, and 71 led the league and plate appearances and at-bats. That's the card we just used. I don't know if it's his best year either. But 739 plate appearances with a 321 on base, 321 slugging and a 301 on base. Ooh, ooch. Anyway, good defensive player, switch hitter. 72, 3, 4, and 5 are the years here. He's still an Angel. I think he's just a keeper, and he's okay. And I wouldn't get too crazy about him. He's 28, 29, 30, 31. I don't want to pound on the guy. He's good enough to be an Angel player. We really need him just to be a great defensive second baseman. That would be good enough. So we're going to keep Sandy Alomar. Next up, interesting, fun player, Jay Johnstone. Jay would bounce all around. So I think he was with the Angels in 69, if I'm not mistaken. Led them in hitting with a 270 average. That led the club in hitting. And then we kept him here even though he was with the White Sox with that 71 card. So now he's on this odyssey. White Sox, Oakland, and Philadelphia. So clearly he's a trade chip. Particularly, look at the 72 year, how bad that is. But if you are clever to figure this out, you could steal this 329 year away from the Phillies in 75. Or, hold them over to the Phillies and say, hey, if you want Johnstone, you got to trade us something good. And I don't know what the Phillies would offer. That's a great card, though. 852 OPS in 75. That card needs to get into the league next year. That's a 4-year contract for Johnstone. So this is a key move. I'm the Angels. I hang on to this guy. I mean, you're not going to find great hitters coming up for the Angel system. As a matter of fact, they had to go outside the organization and trade for Don Baylor, Bobby Grich, Doug DeCinces, Rod Carew, Reggie Jackson later in the decade because they just could not produce, great hitters. So he's a keeper. it's not even worth thinking if you are going to put him on waivers because he plays in 72, because any team would steal him off waivers and bump him up to 75. So he's a keeper, but a trade chip also. And it would be the Phillies calling, and that would be a king's ransom right there for Johnstone. I don't know. It's tough because, he might not be a full-time player. He might be a platoon player, and he might not have good defense. So I don't know what the value is going to be until we get a little bit further into the off-season. Next player is Mickey Rivers. Oh, this is getting interesting now. Now I'm getting interested in these Angels. They're getting some guys who will start to produce some nice batting averages coming up. Mickey Rivers with the Texas hat here. He will really light it up for the Rangers and the Yankees, and I think he's got at least one good year. Unfortunately, this 73 card doesn't exist where it's 349. That's a darn shame. 72 will be ignored. 74 or 75 is available, and you may as well take them just to keep them away from the Yankees in 76 and moving forward. So I would take Rivers to make sure he doesn't end up with the Yankees too soon. Rivers might also take up one roster spot for Johnstone as left-handed hitting outfielders. You might only have room for one of these guys. All right, next guy is Paul Shaw, a guy I've really enjoyed using his card. Nice on-base percentage. He's going to have one more good year here. Kansas City. He's an Angel and a Kansas City Royal, and then back to California again in 74. But he has one more nice year coming up in 73 in a Royal uniform. But the Royals, of course, they got George Brett playing third base, so bring this guy back. He was a 799 OPS, he'll be a 78 OPS. His on base goes up a little bit, 14 points. Bring him back for 73. Paul Shaw. I'm getting interested now in this California team. They're sounding like a lot of fun suddenly. Now they got Jim Spencer, another guy. He'll play some time with the White Sox. He'll have some time with the Yankees and the Rangers. It's really kind of fun, the possibilities the Angels have if they literally play their cards right. If they can play these cards right, it could be a really great team. And they should be able to threaten the Oakland A's next year if they do this right. There you see the Angels, then you see the Rangers, the White Sox, and the Yankees. 79 Yankee season is ridiculous. 23 homers and 295 at-bats, 960 OPS. Guy has a Gold Glove in 77. The White Sox Gold Glove first baseman. The White Sox also had Mike Squires as a 1 first baseman for a little bit of time there. Here we are. He had 18 home runs with that card we just used. 72, 4, and 5 are all available. He splits time with the Rangers and the Angels. He clearly is a keeper. He's a long-term player. The question is, do you trade him to the Rangers? So he's another guy that, because you have so many guys, so many intriguing players, you could trade Jim Spencer as well. Do you have an heir apparent at first base? You don't really, but you have Baylor. What's Baylor's defense? Does he have any now? He's a 40. I thought he was a 325. He's a 4.25. He's really a DH, Don Baylor, even then. And lastly, Cesar Tovar. I bemoaned the offense in the beginning of this video because it didn't have any. It's because here's all 6 of their best players, it would seem, and they're all up. So they can't keep them all. Tovar might be the guy you let go because he was just passing through. He wasn't even on. He was a Twin, and then Texas and Philly. He wasn't even associated with his team. He does continue to play his career. This is a keeper again. And again, you can't keep all these guys. You got 6 keepers. There's no way you can keep all that. So you got to get on the phone and you got to get rid of Tovar. You got to get rid of Spencer. You got to think about getting rid of Johnstone. Maybe Paul Shaw doesn't stick around. I don't know. You got 6 hitters there, and there's no way. The 2 pitchers you probably could put on waivers. The first is Jim McLaughlin. I think he's got an Angel hat on here. Yeah. So he was a Red and an Angel. Actually, in 71, he was with the Reds. In 72, he would have been with the Reds in that World Series team with 145 innings, and that's an okay card. 72, yeah, and then 73 and 74, not so much. 72, you know what? Here's the thing: you're going to make him a keeper because he's good. He's not bad, but the reality of the situation is he'll probably end up on waivers because nobody will call for him. And the Angels will be like, you don't want a guy with a 3.91 ERA and a 147 WHIP? What's wrong with you, American League, National League? What's going on? 145 innings? You don't want this guy? And everybody will go, yeah. You're going to have to put him on waivers. We'll just pounce on him for free. Why trade you anything when, you know, we can get you off waivers? So, as a matter of fact, we might as well just put him on waivers now. Save us the wait. And lastly, Eddie Fisher. Now, Eddie put together a really nice 71. It was a nice year, and then I think he's turning into a pumpkin now. He's been around a while. 59 he started. Eddie's been around a while here, and I think Eddie might be turning into a pumpkin. 72, 73. Well, you know what? He's sort of like McLaughlin. You can get through with him for 72. Again, he's not worth as a keeper. He's just a guy. He's decent. He's good. There's nothing wrong with him. He'll probably play in the league somewhere, but it's not worth the trouble of protecting him, right? Because this is what this is about. This is protection, so no one can steal him away. You don't mind if these two guys are being stolen away because you've got such a great pitching staff, and McLaughlin and Fisher can be replaced by any right-handed pitchers in the league, really. Not limited to those two guys. So I think it's 6 keepers and 2 waivers, and that's really fantastic news for the league. With, again, another team with no retirements. So now when we go up top and do the math, now with 12 eliminated teams. Oh, we're in great shape. We are +7. You look at the first 2 numbers. The target is here. This is the target. I'll put that in a. Yeah, we'll do that like this. Hold on. Oh boy. Took longer than I wanted it to. This is the target. I multiply what you're supposed to have: 4 keepers, 2 waves, 2 retirements by the number of teams we've analyzed, which is 12. 48, 24, and 24 is the target. We got 55 keepers. We're +7. Our waivers are right on target, and we're -7 on retirements. That's fantastic. That means that 7 really good players that we want to keep are going to go on waivers, and 7 of the guys on waivers are going to have to be pushed into retirement. That means that the draft will have decent talent in it, at least at this point. And because we've been eliminating, obviously, the worst teams in the league, it should get better once the better teams start getting to this process. So that's it for eliminating the California Angels. Thanks for checking out this video. We'll see you next time.